America's watching ABC.
Used to be, a bank didn't have to give you much to make you happy. And while times have changed, not all banks have. At Sovran, however, we offer Sovran Select, with real rewards for borrowing, saving, or both. After all, shouldn't you get more from your bank than you did when you were 6?
You said it would never happen again, and it did. You were going to do something about it, and you didn't. Stop lying to me. Stop lying to Mommy. Just stop.
If only she could say that to your face. Alcohol, drugs, and violence can devastate a family. Face the painful truth. Call 423-4000 for a free confidential consultation. Virginia Beach and Norfolk Psychiatric Centers.
Everyone's always loved fresh draft beer.
Ice cold draft beer.
Hey, I'll take one of those.
You got it. Pass it down.
Unfortunately, it only came in one size. But now there's OM Genuine Draft, with the smooth, cold, refreshing taste of real draft beer in bottles and cans. New OM Genuine Draft and Draft Light.
Hey, I'll take one of those.
From the brewers of Old Milwaukee. Real draft beer, without the keg.
Working in the spirit of Hampton Roads. WVEC presents 13 News at 11.
Good evening, I'm Velma Scape. Nisita Kwan has the night off. Up until now, the debate over Clarence Thomas's Supreme Court nomination has focused on the issue of abortion. But tonight, there's a new focus: sexual harassment. A law professor at the University of Oklahoma is making that allegation. Anita Hill says she worked for Thomas at the U.S. Education Department and the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. She says Thomas never physically touched her, but sometimes described his sexual desire for her in graphic detail. Hill says she wanted to put it behind her, but she felt she had to come forward because senators vote on Thomas's confirmation.
Here is a person who is in charge of protecting rights of women and other groups in the workplace. And he is using his position of power for personal gain.
So far, Thomas has said nothing publicly about the allegations, but his leading supporter in the Senate says the FBI has already cleared Thomas of any wrongdoing.
The FBI report was made known to the committee members in individual briefings before the committee voted.
The Senate Judiciary Committee split evenly on Thomas's nomination and sent it to the full Senate without a recommendation. Thomas is scheduled to come up for a confirmation vote this week, but some Democrats now say that vote should be put off. The White House says it still expects Thomas to be confirmed. So far, Thomas has refused to answer senators' questions about his views on abortion. But in Virginia Beach, about 1,000 people made their anti-abortion views very clear this afternoon. A national group called Life Chain organized the protest. Members of some local churches want the Supreme Court to overturn the decision that made abortion legal.
If you choose to get pregnant, then I don't think that you're allowed to take the life away from that baby that you helped create.
A Life Chain spokesman says the group started in California 4 years ago. Life Chain plans similar protests today in 400 North American cities. In the Middle East, the group holding Terry Anderson hostage released a 12-minute tape today. Anderson says his captors have told him they'll soon have very good news for Western hostages, but he was not specific. Anderson calls on Israel to free its hostages, and he thanks the United Nations Secretary General for working to free him and the others. He mentioned fellow hostages Thomas Sutherland and Terry Wade, and he also talked about how good it was to hear the voice of his daughter, Salome, the daughter born after he was kidnapped.
We've been very pleased and very grateful for the efforts of the BBC, Voice of America, French radios, for the efforts that they've taken to give us messages of cheer and let us know what's going on about the situation.
Of all the Western hostages, Anderson has been held the longest, 6.5 years. Keep in mind, he's still a hostage and could not necessarily speak his own mind. New information tonight about AIDS cases traced to a dentist's office in Florida. Health and Human Services Secretary Louis Sullivan says not all the patients may have been infected by the dentist. Sullivan says one of the patients may have already been infected with the virus that causes AIDS and may have passed it on to one other patient. Investigators have found Dr. David Acker was negligent when he came to sterilizing his office equipment. The most celebrated case linked to Dr. Acker's office is Kimberly Bergalis. Apparently, the two cases Sullivan mentioned do not involve her. A motorcycle accident this morning in Norfolk took the lives of 2 Navy men. One was on the bike, the other a pedestrian. Police say the driver of the Suzuki was traveling west in the 1900th block of Parkview Avenue when the other man stepped out in front of him. Both were stationed aboard the USS Theodore Roosevelt. So far, police aren't telling us their names. A lot of planes took off from Langley Air Force Base this morning, but there was no emergency. The planes are just moving to other bases along the East Coast while Langley repairs its runway.
It's necessary because of all the heavy airlift that Langley supported during Desert Storm, Desert Shield. We found that the runway was starting to deteriorate quicker than we had planned on.
48 F-15s took off from Langley this morning. They'll be at an Air National Guard base in Savannah, Georgia, probably until sometime around Christmas. More F-15s are supposed to fly over to Norfolk Naval Air Station tomorrow. The runway repairs are expected to take about 75 days. Still ahead on 13 News, some people in Pungo are worried about their rural neighborhood will become an urban jungle. And in downtown Norfolk, the Flatiron Building is flattened.
Have you seen what's new at your Ford dealer?
Have you?
The new for 92 Ford Taurus, completely redesigned inside and out.
Have you?
It starts under $15,000 and it stops with available anti-lock brakes and a new passenger side airbag. The 92 Ford Taurus at your Tidewater Ford dealer now.
Have you driven a Ford lately?
What happens between the filing of a lawsuit and the trial? Mostly something called pretrial discovery. This is the process by which an attorney gathers the important evidence pertaining to the case. In a personal injury suit, a medical examination may be required, and pretrial hearings with the judge may be needed to resolve any legal issues. If you're considering a lawsuit, it's a good idea to talk to an experienced trial attorney.
If you have any questions concerning the law or your rights, call Rutter and Montagna.
I'm Dr. Linda Schneider for the Family Health Project. There's a reason why kids can make you a little crazy during puberty sometimes. Between the ages of 11 and 14, normal hormonal changes can cause sudden mood swings. Here's how parents can deal with it. Don't be drawn into petty arguments with your children. Don't tease your child about new interest in the opposite sex. And take time to listen and to support them. For more information, ask your doctor or call 1-800-Sentara.
Here's big news from the Money Store. Fixed-rate home equity loans as low as 8.5% are still available.
That's right. Phil Rizzuto here for the Money Store. Right now, qualified homeowners can get fixed-rate home equity loans as low as 8.5%. And your low rate is locked in for the life of the loan. Use the money for any reason at all. It's up to you. Call 1-800-LOAN-YES right now. The Money Store, where America goes for money.
Some people in Pungo met today to organize against further development in their section of Virginia Beach. Years ago, the city zoned property on Seaboard Road for agricultural use to keep it from being developed. But a recent Virginia Supreme Court decision may allow individual property owners to rezone their land. The owner of these 30 acres has done just that and plans on selling the land to a developer who wants to build homes. Pat Igmere already lives on Seaboard Road, and she's upset.
He wants to put 3 houses per acre on the land. If you look at the roads on Seaboard Road, they are not capable of handling the additional traffic. They're not in the capital improvement plan to be improved over the next 10 years.
Pungo Councilman Paul Langtain says the 30 acres in question was downzoned illegally from residential to agricultural, but he won't say whether he'll vote in favor of this rezoning request when it comes up before council. In Norfolk, the Flatiron building is now flat. The building had stood on Butte Street between Granby and Bush for 75 years. The last few of them boarded up and abandoned. This morning, the city of Norfolk had the building blown up. Janet Roach was there.
It looked like something out of a movie. In about 7 seconds, old Flatiron came tumbling down.
It was a good blow up. This is the second one I've been to downtown. It was a good one. It's good to see that thing go, too.
The early hour didn't deter crowds of people who came to witness the rare occasion. Many compared the blast to others they've seen. John Moots was among the crowd. His father once managed Flatiron.
It was part of his life going down, you know.
Do you feel that way, either?
I feel a little bit that way.
They just told me, don't you move your finger. And I'm going...
City Code official Sherman Edmondson pushed the button that set off 50 pounds of implosives that destroyed the 85-year-old building. Flatiron was the victim of broken promises to restore it. The city had no choice but to knock it down.
And it was creating a public nuisance because the building had deteriorated to the point that it was repelling large pieces of concrete. You know, we had 50, 75-pound blocks of concrete falling off the building, endangering pedestrians and vehicles.
So it had to go.
I'd like to see it again. It's great.
Okay, here's an instant replay. Now that this is all that's left, the next step is to bring in a lot of heavy equipment to start removing the debris. And that's a process that will take about 3 weeks. Janet Roach, 13 News, Norfolk.
And Janet says the explosion came off without a hitch. It didn't even break any windows at nearby businesses. And now for some tips on how to dress this work week. A sweater, a jacket?
Well, a sweater to start out with, but it's going to gradually become warmer. Believe it or not, it's going to get a little bit warmer by Friday, but for tomorrow it's going to be nice and chilly. I'll tell you about that when 13 News continues.
We're having a sale, and ooh, what a sale!
Now at Leggett, choose a classic fall suit or a luxurious coat and save.
Oh, come on, it's a wonderful sale.
Wonderful clothes. Wonderful prices.
Your style, great style.
The fall coat and suit sale now at Leggett.
Lifestyle, Leggett style.
Barclay & Sons has sparkling quarter-carat diamond solitaires, half price at $399. Half-carat solitaires, half price at $9.99. Fine jewelry greatly reduced in the gigantic sell-off at your hometown jewelers. Hot fashion looks, too. Pink and nice cubic zirconias, this heart-shaped ring, just $129. And up to 70% off diamond fashion rings, diamond solitaire earrings and pendants, and more. Now at Barclay & Sons Jewelers. Take 10 months to pay with no finance charges.
Perhaps you're losing a little money on annual credit card fees. Perhaps you should use the card that charges no annual fee. And keep your money where it belongs. It pays to discover. When you receive your pre-approved Discover Card application, sign it.
Oh, thank you.
Because you can't earn cash back until you get it back.
Oh.
It pays to discover.
Homearama, build me a dream.
See 15 custom-built homes with new ideas for your home and garden. Homearama 91 at Forest Lakes in Chesapeake.
Welcome back to 13 News. Boy, it's a nice chilly night out there. Let's take a look at our current conditions and see what's going on outside. We have 52 on the peninsula, 54 on the south side. It's getting colder. Humidity is 77%. Winds are out of the north at 10 miles per hour. The barometric pressure is on the rise. We had a high temperature today of 74 degrees, and that was this morning. And our low is 52, actually, right now. Now, let's take a look at this eastern satellite, and we can see what's going on. What you see are clouds that are moving through Hampton Roads. And this is part of a cold front that has been slowly moving through our area. I know you saw all those clouds this morning, and right after the front moved through, you could feel that drop in temperatures. It was really kind of nice. On the backside of that cold front, we have some lingering clouds, and they'll be clearing up by tomorrow, but not completely, because this is a very slow-moving cold front, and clouds will linger in the area for most of the day. It will be nice and cool, however, on the backside of this cold front, so we can look for some nice fall weather for tomorrow. Now, for overnight tonight, we'll see partly cloudy skies, windy and kind of chilly, actually. 45 degrees will be our low in the interior south side and on the peninsula, and 50 degrees should be our low right around the coast. Winds will be gusting out of the north up to 20 miles per hour. Now for tomorrow morning, partly sunny and chilly. Velma, you're going to need a sweater. It will be 50 degrees and our sunrise will be at 7:04 a.m. Tomorrow afternoon, partly sunny and cool. Temperatures will be anywhere from about 55 to 60 degrees, and winds will be gusty and out of the north, gusting up to 25 miles per hour. Now for tomorrow night, mostly clear. That front will go ahead and move all the way out into the Atlantic. Kind of cold, though, 40 degrees in the interior, 50 degrees on the coast. The winds will begin dying down just a little bit. Our high tides tomorrow, 9:18 a.m. and 9:20 p.m. in Sewell's Point. In Virginia Beach, 7:42 a.m. and 7:45 p.m. For the marine forecast tomorrow, the winds will begin out of the north. They'll stay out of the north all day, but they'll begin gusting up to 20 knots, 20 to 25 knots, and then they'll gradually decrease in the afternoon. Visibility will be 3 nautical miles, and in the morning, a small craft advisory is possible. Now let's take a look at the 5-day forecast. For tomorrow, as that front moves out of our area, we can see partly cloudy skies. Temperatures right about 63 degrees for a high. The good news is Tuesday and Wednesday. On the backside of that cold front, we have a high pressure, and that means nice sunny skies. 66 for our high on Tuesday, 72 for our high on Wednesday. Now on Thursday and Friday, a few clouds make their way to our area, and so does a heating trend. So it will be about 76 degrees on Friday. But for the next couple of days, very nice weather.
Good. All right. I like it.
Good.
This turned out to be a great day for some Soviet visitors to tour Williamsburg. The chief of staff and chief of protocol for Russia's President Boris Yeltsin played tourists today at Busch Gardens. Yuri Zaganov and his wife say they're visiting the Williamsburg area because of its significance in the history and development of democracy. He's also planning an upcoming U.S. trip by Yeltsin himself. And the Redskins do it again.
We know this Russian guy could have gone to D.C. and caught the Redskins. Of course, they were on the road. It'd be kind of hard to see
Next
a
time,
football
next
game.
time.
Could have been, but yeah, the Redskins are once again undefeated. They traveled to Chicago today to play the Bears. Now that they do, we'll let you know in a couple minutes. Stay with us.
Come on, touchdown.
If you were to buy all the items you see here from Home Quarters Warehouse, you could save well over $1,000. Similar savings on smaller quantities.
Mind if I go ahead?
Now featured Dynasty Classics halogen torchère floor lamps in black or white, and GTE soft white light bulbs in packs of 4.
Home Quarters Warehouse. The bigger, the better.
Oh, Troy, I know we saved a fortune here at the Farm Fresh anniversary sale.
All the anniversary price cuts, the 15 to 30% we saved on Farm Fresh Express produce, we really stretched our bucks.
She's adding up our savings.
There you go, folks. Thank you.
Back after this.
This week, save with an anniversary price cut on Coke or Pepsi products. Just $1.49 a six-pack at Farm Fresh.
Oh, Troy, don't tell a soul how we saved all this money at Farm Fresh.
Oh, Jessica.
Recently, these people walked out of Little Caesars with extra pepperoni and cheese without paying for it. Extra pepperoni. Extra cheese. Without paying for it. It's lots of lots. Get extra pepperoni and extra cheese on 2 pizzas without paying extra.
Lots of lots of.
At $8.98, it's a steal.
Chill out.
Catch your breath and catch up on your world. Lively conversation with Sherry Brennan, news with John Miller, and weather with Chris Castleman. Midday, weekdays at noon on WVEC.
The last time the Redskins started 6-0 was back in 1978. Unfortunately, that team ended up 8-8. However, this year's edition of the Redskins features a ball control offense and a stingy defense. Their sixth straight conquest came today at Soldier Field against the Bears. Joe Gibbs's crew was pretty much for the game on track, and defensive struggle throughout most of the first half until Chip Miller breaks the drought. His 47-yard field goal gave the Skins an early 3-0 lead. Later in the first half, quarterback Mark Rippon, who was 18 of 31 for only 168 yards, does get great protection from his offensive line, finds Art Monk open in the end zone for the touchdown, and the Skins have a 10-0 advantage at halftime. Redskins defense was the story of the game as well here. Raven Caldwell stopping Neil Anderson for the loss. Anderson would get a little bit of revenge later on this drive as he plunges it in from the 1-yard line to cut the lead to 10-7. But two fourth-quarter interceptions produced points for the Redskins. One of those interceptions converted here when Rippon finds Monk once again for the touchdown. 6 yards on this score. The Redskins go on to win the game 20-7. They're now unbeaten, of course, in 6 games. And after the game, both offense and defense talked about the great defensive efforts.
When we're sitting there kind of stalling and, treading water type thing and not really getting anything going there, finally their defense picks us up, kind of gets us going. That's basically the way it was today. We really weren't, I think, as effective as you like to be early on, but our defense kept hanging in there.
I think we got that lady luck on our side a little bit, I think. Sometimes we make busts, and we did when they ran the ball on us a few times and passed the ball in the zones, but as long as we got that luck with it, I think everything else will work out.
Every game is a test. I think 6 games, the bottom line is it doesn't get you anything, but it inches that one more game closer to what the goal is, and that's the way we're going to take it.
Next up for the Redskins, back home in RFK on Sunday against the Cleveland Browns. Out of NFL action, the Cowboys over the Packers. John Elway sacked 5 times in Denver's loss to Houston in the Astrodome today. Miami over New England. Barry Sanders scores the game-winning touchdown late in the fourth quarter. Detroit takes sole possession of first place in the NFC Central. The Jets beat the Browns, who are the Skins' next opponent, as I mentioned on Sunday. Tampa Bay scores twice in the fourth quarter to beat Philadelphia, and Seattle beats Cincinnati. Cincinnati is 0-5-6, their worst start since '84. Highlights of the Broncos and the Oilers, and John Elway and company in deep trouble. Here, the punt is blocked in the end zone by the Oilers. Bo Orlando, Bubba McDowell scores in the end zone, 7-0 Oilers. More troubles for the Broncos as Chris Dishman steps in front of the Elway pass. He will take off on the sidelines 41 yards. Looks like he was going to go all the way until Elway forces him out. They do convert the touchdown, though, and it's 14-0 Oilers. Later in the second, Elway tries to shovel pass. It goes right into the hands of Dishman once again. Johnny on the spot goes 19 yards for the score, and the Oilers cruise to victory 42-14. NFC Central tilt, the Lions and the Vikings at the Silverdome. Vikings had not scored in 11 quarters until this second quarter touchdown by Darren Nelson to give the Vikings a 7-0 lead. But with 40 seconds left and the Lions trailing, Barry Sanders was the hero once again, scoring from 15 yards out. Detroit, the new leaders in the NFC Central, after a 24-20 win. Tampa Bay and Philadelphia, Vinny Testaverde out with a fracture in his right thumb. His backup, Chris Chandler, throws the touchdown pass to Bruce Hill with 1:10 left, and the Buccaneers get their first win, 14-13. Other NFL action, 6 straight wins for the Giants against the Cardinals. The Chargers win their first game of the season. Tonight, the Colts lose again. They're now 0-6, and tomorrow night on Monday Night Football, it will be the Chiefs hosting the undefeated Buffalo Bills. Well, today's Mellow Yellow 500 in Charlotte left a bad taste in the mouths of both Ricky Rudd and Dale Earnhardt. Rudd fell out of contention after the halfway point, while Earnhardt's car dropped from sight, opening the door for Jeff Bohine to win his first race of the season. You could say today's race got off to a smashing start. Brian Carson, we featured quite a few times on Sports Spotlight. He was all right. He got out of the car, no problem. However, Richard Petty and Sterling Martin have their own version of smashing cars. Both were knocked out of contention on this incident. Tough break coming up here for Chesapeake's Ricky Rudd, who was involved in a 4-car collision on lap 235. He would finish 32nd and lose 26 points to Dale Earnhardt in the points race. Earnhardt would run into some bad luck as well. He would eventually lose the lead here on lap 251 to Davey Allison. His car suffered a broken valve and was forced out of contention. Jeff Bodine was the story here. He was advised to go into the pits for gasoline. He did not, and he won the race, slowing down on the final lap. He ran out of gas, he told after the race, and it's quite an amazing story. Bodine's first win of the season. Earnhardt now has a 120-plus point lead on Ricky Rudd. The next race is in 2 weeks in Rockingham. In 1954, the Baltimore Orioles played their very first game at Memorial Stadium. 38 years later, the Orioles played their final game at Memorial Stadium before moving on to their new home at Camden Yards, downtown near the Inner Harbor. It was a season to remember for some, for most a season to forget. But there were some memories. Johnny Unitas, Brooks Robinson throwing out the first pitch, or first football, I don't know. But pick up the action here in the top of the first. Lloyd Mosby with a single to right field. Milt Kyler scores easily, 1-0 Detroit lead. Later in the first, Mickey Tillington lines one up the middle, scoring Lou Whitaker from second for a 2-0 Tigers lead. Later in the top of the first, Dave Bergman with a 2-run single to center field. Mosby and Tillington score, 4-0 Tigers at this point. The Tigers go on to beat the Orioles 7-1. It was to be a preview of the ALCS. Toronto beats Minnesota in 10. Roger Clemens had 10 Ks, but Boston still lost. Yankees beat Cleveland. Texas over Oakland. California over Kansas City. And tonight, Chicago over Seattle. National League, John Smiley, his 20th win of the season. The Pirates shut out the Expos. Houston over the Braves. David Cohn, a National League record, 19 Ks, one short of the Major League record. They beat the Mets. The Mets beat the Phillies. Chicago over St. Louis. Dodgers shut out San Francisco. And San Diego over Cincinnati. How about a little ice hockey tonight? Kings-Oilers, always a good matchup in the Smythe division. Pick it up in the second period. Luke Robitaille scores on the rebound on the power play, gives the Kings the 2-1 advantage. But early in the third, Craig Simpson will set up Joe Murphy to beat Edmonton native Kelly Rudy to tie the game at 2. This game ends up in a 2-2 tie. Point each for the Kings and the Oilers. Winnipeg with a mild upset over Calgary by a score of 5-3. Philadelphia and Pittsburgh skate to a 2-2 tie. And in the third, New Jersey beating Chicago. Ari Lyondike was the winner of the Bosch Grand Prix of IndyCar racing in Nazareth, Pennsylvania. And Mike Richter signs a new contract with the New York Rangers. This is hockey news, of course. And the Admiral season is not too far behind. It's about a few weeks from now.
Okay, all right, thanks. And when we come back, Elizabeth Taylor married again.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. That's the nicest thing that anyone's ever done for me.
When you do a lot of business with the bank, don't you deserve more than a feeble thank you?
Thank you very much.
With a total of $10,000 in qualifying deposits or loans at Sovran, you'll get free checking with buyer's coverage, 2 no-fee credit cards, and more. And would you rather have all that or just our undying gratitude?
Thank you very, very much.
Where do your pick 4 numbers come from?
They come to me in my dreams. Sometimes a bear brings them, sometimes a duck.
Cherie knows the numbers, but she won't tell me.
They just come to me. Thanks.
1526, 1527, 1528, 1529, 1530.
I get mine from the stars.
4 numbers. They're out there, and you can play them in any order or exact order. Top prize, $5,000.
Joe knows interstate commerce.
Yeah, good shape, no problem. Joe knows the seafood industry.
Joe knows big business.
Yes, Mr. Flanagan.
Joe knows no fear.
The problem is Joe just doesn't know when to quit.
So, basically, we're doing windows.
Joe's Job.
Yuck.
Tuesday on 13 News.
She says she gives good phone.
Would you like to get a little closer?
What, climb through this phone or what? But what you hear isn't what you get. Gina here doesn't really look like Nicole there.
9 times out of 10, it might be me.
Sex fantasies by phone.
When I dial the phone, my heart starts to beat.
They want me to take control and do what feels good.
You're laughing like that might have been your call. On the next Montel Williams Show.
Monday morning at 10 on WVEC.
Finally tonight, they say if at first you don't succeed, try again. But when it comes to marriage, Elizabeth Taylor has tried 5 more times than that. Tonight, try number 8. Taylor married Larry Fortensky at Michael Jackson's ranch in California. Jackson's publicist described it as a very simple wedding. One of Taylor's former husbands says he thinks this marriage will last. The reason? Eddie Fisher says Taylor's never been married to a working man before. And that concludes this edition of 13 News. You have a good night and have a good working week.